This is the Gen X Taste Podcast. I'm Lynn Chen, and today I am coming to you live from my bedroom without Christy because she is adulting. And I told her to not worry about this season, that she could join again in winter if she feels. But for now, let's just see what this feels like. Talking to myself. Well, to you. I was trying to figure out what I wanted this episode to be about. And I guess what I will talk about is sort of the structure of what I would be talking about with Christy, only by myself. So my catch up for the last few months would be that I was traveling. I went to Copenhagen with my husband. It was a really eye-opening experience for me. The country is very different than Los Angeles. The same in a lot of ways in that, we're still drinking coffee and there's avocado toast on every menu, but there is this appreciation for life that feels beyond an Instagram photo. And that's not to say that people there were not on their phones all the time. They absolutely were. But there also seemed to be just an appreciation for the everyday. And that was evident in just a lot of the public spaces and the gathering of people and the respect people appeared to have for one another and just the beauty in every day. I know I'm using very broad terms here. I'll give an example. I did not expect that I would be biking during my trip. There is no Uber in Copenhagen, and there is public transportation, but because nothing is that far away, it's much better to either walk or bike, and there's a real biking culture there. I found myself hopping onto these Lime bicycles, these electric bikes, which did take a little bit of getting used to. I did freak out upon my first pedal. It sort of bolted off in a way that I wasn't expecting. But these bike lanes, the culture of just traveling via bike. I noticed that very few women wore shoes that were not uncomfortable. I mean, they wore shoes that were comfortable, I should say, which I liked a lot because I am somebody who only wants to wear comfortable footwear. But it was also kind of strange for me to be in a city where I did not see any high heels whatsoever. It was refreshing, actually. And there's like a practicality that I really was embracing and appreciating. And we were out for most of the day and night and biking and eating and drinking coffee and looking and talking. And it was an experience that reminded me of college in a lot of ways. I felt like I was being reawakened. There were parts of me that were being reawakened. And, part of that was even just biking. I remember whenever I got on the bike, there was a piece of me that was like, do I remember how to do this? And it's never helpful to get to in your head when you're trying to balance your body on a bicycle. But it was not something that I had done in a really long time. And if I got into my head about it, I would slightly freak out, And then once I let go, I was able to really have fun. And I guess that's sort of a theme that I think I've been going with in the last season, since we spoke last, since I was last on this podcast with Christy. I have been re-examining, retrying things. I've been going to lots of concerts. And sometimes I have these rules about concerts, or I've had these rules about concerts in my later years. I'm not geriatric by any means, but I am going through perimenopause, which I did write about on the blog. And I have not really slept well in the past 2 months. I basically wake up every night at 2 a.m. on the dot. And then I sometimes manage to get back to sleep. Sometimes I don't. Last night I did not, which was frustrating because I'm taking a new CBD by Charlotte's Web that's called Stay Asleep. I think that's what it's called. But yeah, you're supposed to stay asleep. And it was the first night that in a while that I was not able to get back to sleep. But anyway, I usually wake up at 2 and then I sleep a little bit, and then I usually wake up at 4 again. And either I will just get up at 4 because I'm unable to get back to sleep, or I will do a meditation that will lull me back. So it's been a few months since I have really gotten some deep, uninterrupted sleep, and it's taking its toll on me. And that has nothing to do with concerts, except for the fact that I do have one tonight that I don't know if we're gonna stay too long. I mean, that's the thing, is that we don't stay long to these concerts, and that's okay. I think there's a side of me that used to feel bad that you spend all this money on tickets, and to only go and stay for a few songs feels a little bit wasteful. But at the same time, I do enjoy the experience of being in that environment. It's just sometimes I don't want to be in that environment for that long. And so that brings me to the topic that I would have discussed with Christy if she was here. And that topic is, how did you learn How did you learn to watch concerts? And by that, I mean, like, how did you learn to react as an audience member? How did you learn to dance? How did you learn to stand? Because you might be like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what you're talking about right now. But for me, my first concert was when I was like in high school. I was 15-ish, I guess. I went to go see Teenage Fan Club in the city. I'm still shocked my mom let me go because it was a school night. And I went with my friends, and there was a mosh pit, and I did get kicked in the face. And the next day I did not go to school, but I had a fat lip, and my mom took me to go get my passport picture the next day. And in the passport picture, I have my swollen, bloody lip, or dried bloody lip, and a Teenage Fan Club shirt. And I look half asleep, and it was the worst photo of me ever taken. I wish I still had that passport, but I don't. And that night when I was at Teenage Fan Club, I still remember what I wore. I wore a black leotard tucked into cargo shorts, and I had a very itchy thrift store plaid flannel that I had tied around my waist. I wasn't allowed to have combat boots, but I did have a pair of like canvas black boots that kind of looked like they were combat style, but they weren't. And I curled my hair. I mean, really, I basically wear the same shit these days. And And I remember standing there and seeing people like nodding their head and watching the stage and thinking to myself like, oh, okay, I'll nod my head too. Like what's happening? What are we doing here? We stand and we nod our head to the beat of the music and the songs that we know. We like sort of pump our fists and dance around, and then like when we get really excited, we get into like this mosh pit and really thrash about, and then people lift you up. And yeah, like I learned that it felt like a little uncomfortable, but at the same time, it felt very freeing. Like, oh, this is like, I was picking up on all the social cues, and I was like, I think I like this. And as I've gotten older and gone to different types of shows, different genres, some shows that's appropriate, some shows that isn't. I mean, I should also say I grew up at the Metropolitan Opera House where my mom was an opera singer. So I also grew up like, you know, knowing where you're supposed to clap, where you're not supposed to clap, how you're supposed to behave, how you're supposed to dress for the various different types of operas, symphonies, etc. that I went to. And it would be different if it was indoors at Lincoln Center, or if it was at Carnegie Hall, or if it was at the Met did this great, you know, outdoor concert every summer in Central Park where you could bring wine, and like that's very different too. So yeah, it's like no one like teaches you, you just like pick it up, or at least no one taught me. I just picked it up and assumed and learned from that. And I've been thinking about that lately because I go to these concerts now, and mostly I either have a seat and I stay seated for a lot of it because I have a bad back. And I've learned that if I stand for too long, my back starts to hurt, and that's not worth it to me. But if I really love the song, then I will get up and I'll dance. And it's not like I'm, you know, bobbing my head to the beat like everyone else does. I'm not like self-conscious about it or anything, but I definitely am conscious of like the people in front of me and the people in back of me. Sometimes when there aren't seats, I'll be at the side. I do a lot of people watching now. I find it like really, I find it like lovely to to especially watch young couples who appear to be on like dates or like are young in the phase of love where they're just like so into the music together. And I'm usually with my husband, and that's such a bonding piece for him and I throughout our several decades long relationship. And so, yeah, I've been thinking about how we behave at concerts and how we learn to behave at concerts. And when do we decide like, oh, when did I decide, oh, I don't want to be in a mosh pit anymore? Oh, sorry, I didn't turn my phone off. I'm going to turn that off. Yeah, when did we decide that it was not okay anymore? Like, when did I retire from certain concert behavior? I will say that there was a moment when I decided I was no longer going to go to outdoor festivals. It was about 5 or 6 years ago. I had gone to several in Los Angeles, and I just couldn't physically tolerate the walking from one field to another field. All the VIP tents and the bathroom situations were kind of pissing me off. Like, I didn't like that, like, if you pay more, you can pee in a nicer porta potty and you might have a shaded area. It just felt kind of gross to me. And I was like, no more. But now, I don't know. After Copenhagen, I just kind of feel like maybe I'm open to that. Maybe I'm more open to that. So anyway, That was the topic. And Christy's not here to do the potluck where we share a discovery that we've been excited about lately. I feel like my entire blog is just that. All I do is share things that I'm excited about. But if I had to pick one, and this is just because I just used it 5 minutes ago, the Amazon Prime sale was last week, and I kind of went nuts. I'll probably share about what I bought, but the one thing that I was really particularly gaga over that I just used is this Wavy Talk hair brush. It's like kind of like a brush / curling iron, and I actually have a great blowout brush by Revlon that I think is really great. I also have a great curling iron, a really high-end T3 curling iron that does a great job curling hair. But something about this thing, first of all, it's very quiet, and it just makes, you have to use it on dry hair, but it just makes your hair look, or my hair, it makes my hair look very like it's been blown out, and the curl lasts. And am I just imagining it? But I think it's like less damaging than a curling iron, but at least it doesn't, it's like not as crispy. It feels like the curls are a little bit looser, a little more flowy. So that I'm pretty crazy about it. I mean, it was like $40 or something like that. Maybe it was less with the Prime Day sale. Yeah. So, man, I talk a lot less when Christy's not here, obviously, but that was the fall episode for now. I will talk to you again in the winter. Hopefully Christy will join me. If not, I'll try to think of another subject. And hopefully you didn't mind hearing me by myself. I miss Christy here, and I'm sure you do too. And that's it. Have a good one. Bye.